just a lot of things that we find every day, and it's basically a full-time job. To be perfectly honest with you, as far as I'm concerned, Molly can get her $16 an hour just for working in the cemetery. But she knows the clerk's job. She lives outside the township, so she can't be the clerk. So I think this 50 cents is more than fair to bring them to $16 an hour.
So again, my question is, you state here that the cemetery will move with Molly from the deputy supervisor to the deputy clerk. The statutory responsibility for the cemetery cannot move from one elected official's deputy to another elected official's deputy without a mechanism to make that occur. That's the problem here.
You guys voted to have, as a board, to have the duties shifted. I believe that's the mechanism that Trustee DeShano might be referencing. So as you make your motion, you might want to make it as a compound motion, referencing both.
Right. I'm going to make a motion that we raise the deputy clerk, the deputy treasurer, and the office help to $16 an hour. And part of this motion will be that because I do not have a deputy supervisor anymore, that we move the cemetery back to the deputy clerk and the clerk's office to take care of.
Just a point of information here. Last time we did this, understanding it was going to be the deputies and the office help. We then found out that it changed everybody's wages. So it became the wage of any election workers. It became the wage for the custodian. All of a sudden, everybody's base wage went up to what we had discussed, rather than those specific ones that were mentioned in the motion. So my point would be, if that's your motion, that's great, but that means nobody else can get an increase that we're given the increase the last time when it increased $5 an hour.
I'm offering it to I'm saying that the deputy clerk, the deputy treasurer, and the office help, the secretary, I guess if you want to call her a secretary, filer, baker of cookies, would get the 50-cent raise to $16 an hour.
Not the custodian.
No.
And not any election workers? Because I think they ended up being at the same rate, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they're at the $15.50.
Okay.
But no, you would give it to these three. Plus, the cemetery then would move from the deputy supervisor's position, which we have nobody in that position, back to the clerk's office and the deputy clerk. And we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
No second.
And your name just went like.
Sherry. We'll do a roll call vote.
DeShano.
No.
Class.
Yes.
Cruz.
Yes.
Davison.
Yes. Also, the next thing on the agenda is the zoning department has an expense category that we put $500 into it. Well, it's come to our attention that if the zoning administrator has something cleaned up that is not attached to a piece of property, we paid it the one out of his expense account, which obviously $500 don't cover it. And what this amounts to is these blight accounts and mowing grass and stuff like that is charged to the people who own the property. But if somebody gets a trailer load of cupboards and mattresses and stuff and dumps them alongside of a ditch that is outside of the county road right away. If it's inside the county road right away, they will come and pick it up for nothing. But if it's outside the county road right away and not real property that's attached to any owner, which this was a ditch on Elevator Road that we had cleaned up. So I'd like to move $1,500 that's left in the deputy supervisor's pay into the expenses of the zoning administrator to cover the $375 it took us to clean up that area. And that would leave them $1,225 out of this money for any future. We might not use it at all, because that's the first time we've ever had it that we didn't have something to attach it to for cleanup.
Well,
So
who did the cleanup? Did Fred do it?
Fred had somebody, it was a third party do it, yes.
S&S?
No.
Never got called.
No. It was $375 that we approved to have cleaned up, to get rid of the mattress, load everything up, and haul it up to the landfill. So I'd like to move the $1,500 into the expenses of the zoning administrator. Question.
When we created this category, I spoke with Greg, the previous clerk, about creating this category after we went through budget negotiations, and I'd advocated for creating this because of the fact that we were just kind of dumping those expenses, which were supposed to be mileage and cell phones, just into the overall account, and so we need an expenses account. But creating that expenses account wasn't necessarily to open it up, to have a whole nother bucket of money for this. So I do understand that the $375 was charged to that, but I still think, again, that needs to actually be broken down a little bit more. I mean, the whole creation of that expense was specifically for mileage and cell phone. So now we're gonna have these random cleanouts that are happening, and those are just gonna go under, we just have a whole umbrella category again, when what we were trying to do was create a cleaner category to actually have his expenses in it.
Well, in the 6 years that I've been here, this is the only time we've cleaned something up that we didn't have an actual taxpayer tax property to attach it to. So like I say, we can do $500, I don't care, but I think we need to pay the $375 back in there, so there's $500 at least in there for his phones, and I'm sure that BSNA can run a...
With the new chart of accounts and that extra 3 digits that they added on the end, I'm guessing we can probably just create a new expense account under Fred's expenses with the different 3 digits on the end to separate all that out, and we can check with Darcy to see that, to make sure that that's okay. It shouldn't be a problem.
So, I will make a motion to move $1,500 into an expense account for the zoning administrator with a new number that would cover any expenses for cleanup that we can't charge to a property. And in retrospect then, when this account is set up, move $375 out of this account into his regular expense account to cover his phone and mileage, to reimburse that account for the road, from the cleanup that was $375.
Just again, point of information. Not casting aspersions whatsoever, but how, we don't have anything other than Fred saying that it cost him this much money. I mean, nothing against Fred, but, that's just not how you normally do business. Is it a bill from the person that actually did it, or is it him writing us a bill? Because, they're all round numbers, which I always find kind of interesting on a bill.
The bids were all round numbers, just so you know.
I understand, but I'm saying $375, I think there was another one I saw that was, $88? So,
85.
or 85. So I'm just kind of curious what kind of accounting system we actually have for that, or if it's just like, hey, this is how much it cost me. Okay, here's a check. It just seems like there should be a little bit more of an accounting system should this occur again. Maybe it won't, but there should be some kind of an accounting system so we know, because we're basically paying Fred, and then Fred is paying whoever actually did the work. So we kind of have a middleman situation here. We need to make sure we're getting the documentation we need to prove that the money was appropriately spent, because it's not our money, it's their money.
I'll be more than happy to appoint you to that expense account. So when we have a problem, feel free to get the bids to clean it up.
Well, that's why I ask questions every time we have a bill session. That's what my job is.
There's a motion on the floor. Do you have the motion complete?
Yes, but I don't have a second.
We need a second. To start another account with $1,500 and then put the $375 back into Fred's account and from the new account for expenses for cleanup.
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote on that, please.
Class,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Davidson,
Yes?
DeShano.
Yeah.
Any other new business?
Mr. Supervisor, before you move on, the other thing is the drain commissioner has exclusive jurisdiction over the ditches. So going forward, you might want to, somebody might want to call them first to see if they'll come out and do it just before you consider incurring that additional cost.
Yeah, this wasn't under the drain commissioner's jurisdiction, this particular
It did?
drain. Yeah. The ditches fall in three categories. One that the township owns, the primary roads are owned by the county, and then the county drains are the drain commissioner. So there's three different categories. The road commission I've had them pick up mattresses and kitchen cupboards laying along the edge of even Collins roads. And they'll come out and pick them up. But this was off the road far enough. They went down a little lane and dumped it in the woods next to this ditch, and some of the neighbors were complaining after they saw it, so it was mattress and kitchen cupboards and all sorts of other fine things. It was actually more than one trailer load they hauled up to the landfill. So if it was a county drain though, I would have requested, I would have talked to Mr. Ribbon. So under FYI, the sheriff's report, we got the sheriff's report for May. There were 69 traffic stops. I'll just talk about some of the bigger ones. 18 reckless driving, 10 B&E alarms, 14 business contacts. I guess I don't know what those are. 11 follow-up calls, 6 citizens assist, with a total of 270 calls for the month of May.
And 69 of those are traffic stops, so keep your eyes
Well,
open.
And I'm assuming, I've asked this question to the sheriff, and these aren't double numbers all in one, so it's 69 traffic stops, and there was also 18 reckless driving stops. 8 property damage accidents. We had 6 problems between neighbors. So, anything else?
Everybody have a happy 4th of July as we celebrate our independence.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Tennis and pickleball courts are finished.
Second.
We will put those on the web page.
Everybody should go and check them out.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.